know that a number of you have either reconnected or maybe even discovered your why over the course of the last 3 days, because a number of you have shared that with me, and I thank you for that. But one person in particular shared his why with me, and his name is Frank King. And before I bring Frank King up on stage, I want to tell you a little bit about Frank. I first met Frank in 1998 in La Jolla, California. He was a stand-up comedian, very popular and busy stand-up comedian with no purpose. In fact, Frank and his wife Wendy today still hold the world record for traveling North America on a comedy tour in a row 2,629 nights. Traveling and living in a Dodge Colt and a cell phone and a P.O. box. And they traveled North America and they worked with comedians like Jerry Seinfeld and Ellen DeGeneres and Dennis Miller, Chris Rock, Kevin James, Jeff Foxworthy. In fact, Frank was a writer for The Tonight Show for 20 years. And then in 1994, he discovered NSA and he joined the National Speakers Association because they are all rich. He became a successful speaker. In 1 year, 5-Star Speakers Bureau booked him 60 times. He is a master, but his mantra, his mission, his ministry, his slogan, his tagline, and his brand was built around make a living, not a difference. In fact, he made fun of you who didn't care about making a living. You just wanted to make a difference. In fact, we have a very good friend who today is a CSP and a CPAE, and we used to go out to eat, the three of us, and Frank gave her her mission statement, and it was saving the world, one loser at a time. And then in 2008, the recession hit. And his calendar dried up. And he and Wendy lost everything. They filed bankruptcy. And then in a moment of truth, he put a gun in his mouth.
Yes, I often open my keynote by saying I came so close to dying by suicide that I know what the barrel of my gun tastes like. Spoiler alert, didn't pull the trigger. I did a keynote recently in Philadelphia. A friend of mine was in the audience. He came up afterwards. He goes, "Hey, man, why didn't you pull the trigger?" I go, "Hey, man, could you try to sound a little less disappointed?" Hang on, Cliff Notes, the Palm Pilot. The other question I get all the time is, okay, let me get this straight. A comedian doing a keynote on depression and suicide, exactly how does that work? I believe a comedian is a good choice, and I'll tell you why. Because think about this. A comedian's job is and always has been, since the time of the court jester, to speak truth to power on behalf of the powerless. And what I do is I speak truth to the power of mental illness on behalf of those often powerless in its grip. I believe where there's humor, there's hope, where there's laughter, there's life, that nobody dies laughing. And depression and suicide run in my family. It's called generational depression and suicide. My grandmother died by suicide, my mother found her. My great aunt died by suicide. My mother and I found her. I was 4 years old. I will spare you the gruesome details. And I myself have 2 mental illnesses. I believe they are my gift in a strange way. I have what's called major depressive disorder, which is depression, which is relatively common. I have something else called chronic suicidality. Chronic suicidality means that for me and my tribe, the option of suicide is always on the menu as a solution for problems large and small. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, my car broke down. I had 3 thoughts unbidden. I could get it fixed, I could buy a new one, or I could just kill myself. I know, it sounds odd, but that is chronic suicidality. And every time I speak, every time, at least one person, sometimes more, come up after my keynote, and they have that condition, and many didn't know it had a name. I did a show, 800 college students, a young woman came up, she goes, I want to thank you for your keynote. I said, you're welcome. She goes, but I want you to know you made me weep. I said, how did I make you weep? She said, when you said your car broke down, you had 3 thoughts. Get it fixed, buy a new one, or you could just kill yourself. She goes, I've been having those thoughts all my life. I thought it was just me. I thought I was a freak. And then when I heard those words come out of your mouth, I realized for the first time in my life that I am not alone, and I wept. If you're looking for your why, here's my advice. Find your tribe and find a vacuum. My tribe is people who live with mental illness and for whom the option of suicide is always on the menu. And the vacuum is, even though in the United States we have a suicide epidemic, hardly anyone is talking about it. Every year in the United States, 47,000 people die by suicide. That's 1 every 15 minutes. That means at this moment in time, somewhere in this country, someone in my tribe has less than 15 minutes to live. That is my why. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. And today, he doesn't care about making a living. He only cares about making a difference.